Today, we're looking at Diamine Coral. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Diamine's Coral is kind of a orangey, peachy kind of color. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into a different pen for day. I then put it into a Pier Cardin with a medium nib to take my notes for this video. Before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. And up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. Now the one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately dunk it into water for 10 to 15 seconds, and we see a very bright pink at the bottom pushing all the way and immediately up. We start to get some orange with a kind of highlighter yellow across the top. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. We see that there's a kind of darker peachy line. That peach is a bit darker as it moves up, or pink that moves up. Then we get an orange and a much thinner yellow line across the top. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be for you to clean out of your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Now looking at the highlighter, we see that it does spread, but it doesn't become unreadable. It doesn't mash and blur the words to a point that you can't use it. So it might be safe in a note-taking situation. Which is surprising when we look at water. Water completely reactivates and pulls almost all this ink off the page, leaving only a very light pink behind, making me feel that since it was 3 days, this is all it might be needed to take it out of your pen. But Pen Flush removes even more of that ink. You can see around the edges where it's becoming white, so it's completely coming off the paper. Bleach completely removes it from the page, leaving only behind a little bit of yellow staining. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Diamine's Coral has a viscosity of 1.7, which makes it a wetter ink. It's not at the point of very wet, it's right on the line of very wet, but it is definitely a wetter ink. To find my average dry time, I use my writing samples done on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper with the extra fine and medium nib of my writing samples. Diamine's Coral has an average dry time of 16 seconds, which makes it a very normal ink. It's almost average. I picked this ink up in sample form, and just to look at it, if you look at it in the sample, it looks like it's so light you wouldn't want it. So that's what's a little nice sometimes if you just go in and you say, I'm trying Diamine, and you go fill up every Diamine that you can find, because you're going to find some colors that are pretty interesting, like this. So to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 1.1, or a Jinhao with a Goulet 1.1 stub. I use a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. I think I misspoke that the first one, it's not a Jinhao 1.1, it's a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub. Let's look at Clairefontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. Fantastic. The 1.1 gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine, same exact tone as the 1.1. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 11 seconds to dry. Mediums, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 15 seconds to dry. Looking at the scrubby, we don't see any color variation. We don't expect to see any color variation up here. And the smear test says you might be able to recover it. But this is wow, this is a smeary ink. Okay, when we smear it, we get this kind of pink, which to me, that pinky color here says coral. This is very orangey. It's like orange towards peach as a color. It doesn't say coral. It's kind of got like these peachy tones in it. Anyway, Tomoe River. It's enough of me babbling about a color. Tomoe River, no bleeding. Minor ghosting.
Actually, it's not too bad. It looks way worse on camera. That's what it looks like in person. It looks way worse on camera. Not too bad in person, but it's a very light ink that makes it much more manageable. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. Look at the color difference, though. It's a bit of a color difference. See, that says more coral. That says more peachy orange. It's just changing the tone. It's a cream paper versus a white paper. All right. Extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 18 seconds to dry. Medium gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 23 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows us we're not going to get any kind of color variation, and we don't get color variation. We still get that kind of pink color when we smear it, and we don't get to recover any of it because we wrote it on Tomoe River. So we look at Rhodia paper. Rhodia gives us no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 gives no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, nothing. Just that peachy orange coral. I'm going to call it coral. I'm not going to pick on it. I don't see coral when I see this. That's not the color that's not the thing it makes me think of. I'm not saying there's no coral with this tone at all. This doesn't make me think of coral when I look at it. All right. Extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shading. 13 seconds to get there. Medium gives us a darker tone than we had with the extra fine. It has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 16 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows us we get no color variation. We saw no color variation. We smear it, it still goes from this coral to pink. It changes color on the smear, but we couldn't recover it. So I decided to look at this with a yellow Rhodia paper. We get no bleeding, no ghosting, not expected. Let's look at the color. And it just turns more orangey. So we have what I really see as more coral. I'm hoping this really comes through on camera. I see more coral, but with the white background, it looks more orange peachy. Now, when we go to the yellow background paper, we get more orangey and almost, we get the more orange. I can almost see the real coral color right there. This is definitely a nicer color than with the cream paper. This is